everyone? Mitch coming in for the Chimera's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So, recently, some cards were revealed, and if you haven't seen those episodes, make sure you check them out. But, yeah, some massive, and I do mean massive, Final Fantasy cards were revealed already, and they're going to make a huge impact on, well, certain commanders. And on this episode, I'm going to tell you what commanders those are, what got big upgrades, and why. Let's jump into it. So, the card that is all of the discussion on the internet right now, essentially, is Jumbo Cactuar. And for good reason. It's a 1/7 plant for 7 mana in green, and if it was just that, it'd be one of the worst cards in Magic of all time, and I'm counting you, Wood Elemental. Okay, it's not worse than that, but still. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999, plus 0 until end of turn. Absolutely absurd. So this card itself is just, you swing, and if you hit, you win the game. So literally, like, this could just be like a finisher in basically any deck out there that has green. Now, obviously, an opponent can simply block, but there are certain commanders out there that maybe can take advantage of that, or maybe can take advantage of the power inherently. And in fact, there might be more than you think right now. In fact, I've got 16 commanders listed that are like, yeah, you might want to come over here in this deck. Unfortunately for me, I don't think this one's going to be budget friendly, so I'm going to be using it, but you very well might be, and maybe I will be wrong. Maybe it will be budget friendly. We shall see. That being said, let's jump into those commanders. Starting things off with one that you might not expect, but yeah, Cassetto Orochi Archmage could consider it. It is a 2/2 Snake Wizard for 3 mana in Simic, and it's unlike a lot of other Simic commanders. It's not like, hey, land, hey, draw. No, it's, hey, snakes maybe? Question mark? Pay Simic colors. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. If that creature is a snake, it's +2/+2 until end of turn. I mean, the answer is very simple with this one. It is kind of a 2-card combo with this creature because, again, unless your opponent has literally over 10,000 life, which they don't, I'm going to tell you that right now, they do not. This is just you pay 2 mana, you swing with your Jumbo Cactuar, and that player that you hit with it literally loses the game. That is just, okay, it's not a snake, it's a plant, who cares? That extra +2/+2 would be nice, but it doesn't really matter at all. So yeah, just get it through. Next up, Mimeoplasm Revered One, a more recent commander that most definitely could be chomping at the bit to get this one in the deck. A 0/0 ooze for X in Sultai colors. As it enters, eggs up to X creature cards from your graveyard. It enters with 3 counters on it for each creature card exile this way. Pay 2, comes a copy of target card, exile with it, except a 0/0 and has this ability. This is a very simple one. This is a, I'm not going to say like 3-card combo, but like kind of with any other creature that gives evasion, especially ones like, Slitherblade or whatever that are basically just unblockable. So essentially you just pay 5 mana into this in total, right? 2 for that X, exile away the Cactuar from the graveyard, exile against a Slitherblade. All of a sudden, you turn to a copy of the actual Cactuar, you swing, you get the attack trigger, you get the power, and then you pay 2, you switch on the Slitherblade, it's unblockable, your opponent can't block it, they lose the game. So yeah, that's a very easy way to turn your commander into a one-shot KO. Next up, Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. Okay, here you go. As if Selvala needed more help. A 2/3 Elf Scout for 3 mana in green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. Now, that part, you're not going to take advantage of, literally. Like, again, this commander literally has 2 power, which is not a lot. That's already more than the Jumbo Cactuar, so you're not going to be able to draw cards off of that. That being said, you make up for that and then some with pay a green, tap at X mana, any combination of colors of X the greatest power among creatures you control. Yeah, how would you like 10,000 mana? You just go, oh, okay, alright, I attack. Oh, 10,000 power, huh? Okay, yeah, let's get the 10,000 mana. That's probably worth the 1 mana investment to get that. So, yeah, just a giant payoff. Again, like, literally, there are so many creatures that, like, Galta is a huge payoff, right, at 12 mana. How would you like so much more mana than that? So if you can't win when you've got that much mana with this commander, I don't know what you're doing. But yeah, this is definitely a card that Selvala could consider. Tuya Bearclaw, yet another card that would definitely consider this one in the deck. A 2/2 Human Warrior for 3 mana. In Gruul, whenever this attacks, it gets +X/+X. And so remember, X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. Yeah, this is kind of like a 2 opponent takeout all in one, essentially. Like, if you've got, like, ways to give trample, which you probably do with this kind of a deck, trample or evasion or whatnot. But yeah, Basically, you swing with the Cactuar, you swing with this, you stack the attack triggers in a way where the Cactuar gains the power first, obviously, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I also get plus 10,000, plus 10,000. Yay! So all of a sudden, you're just swinging through and taking an opponent out. Lovely. Very easy. Next up. Tyvar takes that to a different way, essentially. Yeah, a 3/3 elf warrior for 3 mana in green. Another tap creature control. Tyvar gets indestructible. That's nice. I mean, nice to protect it, but more importantly, pay 5 mana in green in total. Creature control get +X until end of turn where X the grace power among creatures you control. Yeah, every single one of your creatures now literally gets plus 10,000. And you can activate that at instant speed. You can activate it after you've attacked. So you're like, okay, I attack. My Cactuar is huge. I pay 5 mana. Everything gets a massive amount of power. Can my opponents block every single thing, or do I have some tramplers or some evasive creatures? Most likely. So, yeah, my opponents are going to be gone just by paying that 5 mana once. Again, that is an ability that you can pay 5 mana into as many times as you want. There's definitely strategies out there with this deck where you're doing that. With this kind of a creature, it's like, oh no, this is a one-shot. This is just literally, okay, I pay this once, and all of a sudden my opponents are just gone. Golgari Lichlord, a 2/2 zombie elf for 4 mana. This one is very potent with it. I mean, incredibly potent with it. In fact, it is a one-shot on all players. 2/2 zombie elf, +1 for each creature card in your graveyard. That's nice, but most importantly, pay 3 mana in total, sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to sacrifice creature's power. That is game. That is just game. Oh, literally, you just go to combat, you swing with your Cactuar, doesn't have to even get through, doesn't have to do anything, you're just like, oh, okay, cool, you have 10,000 power, I pay 3 mana, all my opponents lose the game. Unless, again, one of them somehow happens to have more than 10,000 life, and they do not. So this is just literally, like, mass fling. So yeah, a fling commander like this one is absolutely huge. Minx and Boo, very similar to that, essentially. 3 starting loyalty, Minx. Yeah, the whole Boo thing, you get Boo, great, okay. But the thing that matters on this one, let's just point that out, is the -2. Sacrifice a creature. When you do, deals X damage to any target, X that creature's power. If it was a hamster, you draw X cards. Thank goodness that is not a hamster, or you would lose. That being said, it could be very funny if an opponent has, like, a way to turn your creature into a hamster, like instant speed, which there are ways to do that, not very many, but sure. Then you lose the game, but that'd be funny. But no, you're not going to be at risk for that. So yeah, just again, play your Cactuar, play this, -2. All of a sudden, your opponent's gone. Good. Next up, Mr. Orfeo, the Boulder. I mean, if it's just kind of overkill at this point, but yeah, I definitely thought of it for my Mr. Orfeo Hotline Fling deck, which is all about flinging. So if you've got a fling deck around Mr. Orfeo, great, consider it. It's just kind of like, unnecessary, I guess, when it comes to the amount of power, but sure, why not? Again, whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. Sure. All right, so again, stack the attract triggers in a way where you're like, okay, my Cactuar's got 10,000 power now, and now it's got 20,000 power. Does that not matter all that much? Probably not. In a somewhat similar way, but kind of funny as well, Sovereign Okanek Ahu, a 3/4 Cat Noble, Ward 4. I was going to say Ward 4. Ward 2, there we go. When it attacks for each creature controlled power greater than that creature's base power, putting a number of counters on equal to the difference. This is one way, again, because the Cactuar actually doesn't gain any toughness, so it doesn't protect itself in that way, which probably doesn't matter for the most part. But this is a way to permanently gain that power. So again, if you literally don't have trample with it or evasion, it's like, oh, okay. Again, like I literally just gain an absurd amount of counters on this. Of course, there's ways to take advantage of those counters, maybe redistribute them or whatnot too. So do keep that in mind. Or like Ozlith, yeah, that too. So yeah, if you've got like counter synergies with this, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I just want a creature to get an absurd amount of counters, and probably give it trample in other ways too. Definitely consider it. Next up, Yannick, Scavenger Sentinel. This is one where, yeah, again, with the kind of counters and like the playing with it, if you've got like a blink strategy with this one, it partners with Nakara. Do keep that in mind. That being said, when it enters the battlefield, exile a creature control until it leaves the battlefield. When you distribute X counters among any number of target creatures, X exiles creature's power. So again, if you've got like either playing this essentially on your second main, if your Cactuar survived combat, or again, if you just blink it essentially, like, okay, cool. All right. Hey, Cactuar, go away. I'm going to distribute 10,000 counters. Let me take my time doing this. That's going to take a lot of dice. Probably more so like getting a piece of paper and like writing them down. But yes, and then like, chopping that paper up and then putting them on the creatures. But basically, yeah, I mean, this could be a good instant speed, just like I win the game trick. If you've got, again, blink effects in this deck, which you probably do, instant speed ones, you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, I swing with my Cactuar, I swing with other creatures. Some creatures get through. I cloud shift my Yannick. Yannick comes into play, and then all of a sudden I get out my Cactuar and it's gone, and then I get, oh, okay, cool. Distribute those counters, and I win. Just a massive, like, pump effect, permanent pump effect that just wins the game. Crash the Blood Braided. Yet another one that could be like, yeah, you know what? Get over here, Cactuar. 3/3 Human Warrior for 5 mana in Jund. And then when another creature dies, you may you put X counters on Crash for X that creature's power. Yes, please. Again, like, a lot of these commanders, like, no, I don't want my Cactuar to die. This, or unless you're, like, flinging it. But this one's like, I would love that Cactuar to die. Let's swing. Block it and take it out. And that being said, obviously a Crash deck is going to have free sacrifice outlets anyways, or like, you know, the, like, oh, I paid, you know, single mana, I sacrifice creature, I draw 2 cards. Cool, like Village Rites type cards. So you're going to have ways to sacrifice those creatures when you want to, and ways to give this trample or evasion, and you can very easily get 10,000 counters on your commander, which is a strange sentence to say. Nethroi, in kind of a reverse way, thinking about like the low power of this card inherently, yeah, Nethroi could be like, yes please. A 5/5 like Cat Nightmare Beast for 5 mana, and there we go, it's got Mutate, and you're going to mutate it, and when this creature mutates, you return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This Abzan commander is quite fun. It is one where you're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I either mill myself or like entomb cards in my graveyard, essentially, get the right creatures in there, and all of a sudden I mutate and get a lot of things out. And again, since the Cactuar just has inherently 1 power, it doesn't take up a lot of this. Again, it's like, okay, yeah, I can get a lot of creatures. A lot of Nethroi decks are built around like a lot of tiny creatures like 0 power, which inherently might not have 0 power, like something that enters the battlefield with counters on it, or gains power again, like this Cactuar. So you can get a lot of creatures out with this, like 10 plus, and essentially you're like, okay, cool, I get the Cactuar out too, and your opponent's like, wait, what? You just reanimated 10 creatures, one of them being the Cactuar, who is a one-shot KO on anyone. Gross! Next up, in a weird way as well, like, Prime Seeker's Ghana is both awesome and terrible with this card. Prime Seeker's Ghana is a 1/1 Merfolk Wizard for 6 mana in Simic, enters X counters on with X greatest power creature control, enters draw cards equal to its power. Here's the thing, obviously, if you don't have Lab Maniac or Thassa's Oracle or, you know, Jace or whatever, you lose the game. So, yeah, but if you do, and you have like the, oh, I lost my library, I win the game, that's very good then. So yeah, it is like a 3-card combo if you do have, like, again, like the Thassa's Oracle type win, but if you don't do it, because you're going to lose the game, because you don't have 10,000 cards in your deck. I know drawing cards is the best thing of all time, but yeah, by doing that, you just lose. So yeah, be careful, please. All right, Zeator the Incinerator, a 6/6 Demon Dragon for 6 mana in Jund Flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Zeator the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. You create 3 treasure tokens. Very simple. Obviously, this commander is just a fling on a commander. It's just literally like, okay, hey, get to the end step, fling. So you swing at the Cactuar. You probably took out someone by actually swinging and maybe trampling through if you have a way to give it trample or a way to give it evasion or whatnot. Even if not, cool. All right, I just sacrifice it. I take out one of my opponents. Awesome. And on top of that, again, if you have like lifelink on this, which you probably have ways to give this lifelink because, yeah, it's a Zeator deck and you should do that. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, cool. All right, I took out that opponent and I gained 10,000 life. Good luck ever taking me out opponents. Oh, and I got 3 treasure tokens too. Lovely. Galta and Mavrin, yet another great one to consider this card. A 12/12 dinosaur vampire, because that's a thing. That's kind of, step aside real quick. I found these kind of weird where they're like, it's like a combination one. I know it's kind of cool, but also it's like, it's a dinosaur vampire. It's like, no, it's a dinosaur and a vampire. It's like 2 things in one. It's not like a combination. It's like a dinosaur that is a vampire. Anyways, trampling for 7 mana in Selesnya. Whenever you attack, choose 1, create tap that attacking XX green dinosaur creature with trample, Rexy Grace power among other attacking creatures. The other one you can ignore because you're going to be ignoring that when the Cactuar is in play, even though typically you're building around that second part, creating a lot of vampires based on the number of attacking creatures. What matters is literally, again, greatest power among other attacking creatures. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I stack the triggers in this way where, all right, yeah, I've got my Cactuar attacking. It's got 10,000 power. Now I make a 10,000 dinosaur creature token with trample. That's going to be fun to draw. It's just the planet. You just draw a little planet and then the dinosaur next to the planet, like standing on top of like the planet, like the same size of it. Anyways, and it's got trample as well. So this is literally, okay, you swing at the Cactuar, even if it doesn't have trample or, you know, evasion, you are creating something that does have trample. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool. That thing takes out one opponent. My Cactuar might take someone out. Even if it gets taken out, doesn't matter. Like next turn I attack with another one and I have 2 dinosaurs now that are absolutely massive with trample, taking players out. And maybe I have populate effects too. Yeah, this is definitely a, again, one-shot KO combination in this deck. Finally, though, for Jumbo Cactuar, again, there's so many. I mean, I guess there's so many. There's so many. Like the new Elvish Piper commander too could just like cheat them into play as well. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, Via, yeah, great, okay, cheat into play. It's got trample. All right, cool. All right, that one too. All right, anyways, Cloth Unrivaled Ancient, a 4/4 Dragon Flying and Haze for 7 mana in Gruul. Attacks at X mana in any combination of colors or X the total power of attacking creatures. Spend spelling to cast spells until end of turn. You don't lose mana except phase end. Yeah, again, kind of like, earlier on when we talked about a certain commander that's like, you know, Hey, you know what? Let's add greatest power to mana. Savala, great. This one's like, oh, okay, that. But also, like, count your other creatures too, because why not? So sure, you've got like 10,040 mana. Good for you for that extra 40, but still. Yeah, not losing that mana until phase's end. You only use it to cast spells, which is, sure, fine. Like, if you have any activated abilities, you can't just use and abuse those, but that's fine. You're still going to win the game. You have 10,000 mana. You can just dump everything at all your spells, drop your hand on the board, probably draw more cards, play more things. You got ways to win if you've got 10,000 mana. I would hope so. So yeah, Cloth is going to be like, yes, please. That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Yay. Okay, next up, outside of Jumbo Cactuar, which is definitely, again, the belle of the ball right now, getting all the attention, there's some other really exciting cards, and Sin is going to be a really cool commander. That being said, there are definitely some decks out there that are going to absolutely love it as well. Sin's Fear's Punishment is a 7/7 Leviathan Avatar with flying for 7 mana in Sultai. Whenever it enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tap token that's copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. I mean, yeah, if you just get a bunch of lands in your graveyard, you can do a lot of great things with this, being like, okay, cool. Land. Awesome. And there are definitely some commanders that can work really well with that. They already work well with lands in their graveyard. But also on top of that, there are some that are like, hey, you know what? Let's just take advantage of either that ETB, the attack trigger, just getting massive things out of the graveyard, or maybe populating too. But yeah, this is a really huge effect that, yeah, is random, but it's repeatable, and it is potentially just game-ending, essentially. And it being a 7/7 flyer is quite nice as well. But yeah, let's talk about some commanders that might want to consider this gem. So first up, Xavier Sol Infested Captain, a 3/3 Human Humongous Pirate for 3 mana in Sultai. Tap, remove a counter from another permanent you control. Populate, active on sorcery, which again means you get a token that's a copy of a creature you control. Or you can tap and sacrifice another creature to proliferate, activate on sorcery. So basically, this is a commander that can work in a couple different ways with Sin, where you're like, oh, okay, cool. Again, this commander can definitely fill the graveyard with certain things, which is great by sacrificing and has some synergies with that. But of course, just literally like, oh, okay, I made like a really cool token of a massive creature from my, my Sin into the battlefield or attack trigger. All right, let's just like tap, remove a counter from anything that I have. Cool. All right. I don't care what that. I mean, you're going to have counters, obviously, if you're building a deck around this. You're like, okay, cool. Remove that. Make a giant token copy of whatever it is. Again, giant Eldrazi or whatnot. So yeah, have fun with that. Yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things with that. So moving on. Joe Archmage Eternal. Yeah, just again, like a big, like, hey, you know what? Spell you can just cheat out into play for just 5 mana instead of 7. You're saving a little bit of mana there. Like, that mana does add up throughout the game, but again, just like a big, giant kind of, huge spell deck where you have a bunch of huge creatures or a bunch of huge permanents. You're going to have them get into play, get in the graveyard and whatnot, and essentially once you play Sin, then it's like, okay, I get to recur all those old, giant, massive things that I already had. Yeah, what's not to love about that? Or if you've got, like, wheel effects or whatnot, essentially, with this as well. If you've got ways to get giant things in the graveyard one way or another, it's just a big, monstrous spell that you play that can just give you absurd value throughout the game. So yeah, like a big spell, like just massive mana deck with Joda, you can have a lot of fun with that, like a Haymaker deck, essentially. Speaking of a Haymaker, though, Yarok the Desecrated, yeah, this is a commander that definitely want to consider it. A 3/5 Elemental with Death Touch and Lifelink for 5 mana in Sultai. If a permanent enter the battlefield causes a triggered ability of printing control trigger, triggers additional time. Again, Sin has that on an ETB and an attack trigger. It's nice that it's got the attack trigger. Unfortunately for Ishin, it is not in Ishin's colors. It is in Yarok's, though, so doubling up that ETB is absolutely huge. Being like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. ETB, get 2 things. Great, good for me. All of a sudden, again, you probably have some blink effects, obviously. I mean, it is like an ETB type deck, so you definitely do. Okay, blink Sin. Get it back into play. Do it again twice. So every single time you're doing that, absolutely absurd amounts of value. So yeah, Yarok definitely wants to consider this as well. And the final one that I'm going to bring up, the final new card that might have some new homes, some good upgrades for those depending on your deck. Stiltskin Moogle, Merchant, a 1/2 Moogle that cost a single white mana. Lifelink, pay 2 tap, target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, draw a card. So this is one where, again, I already talked about it as a commander on the episode. If you ever want to check that one out, make sure you check that episode out. That being said, yeah, this is also a card that can fit really well into certain decks as well. It is a donate type card, and there's only so many of those out there, and it's a donate type card that actually gives you value as well, recurring value. So you're just like, okay, yeah, cool. Here, I'll give you some more. I'll give you 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 more. And there are 2 different kinds of strategies that definitely want to consider this one. Okay, maybe actually 3 strategies, because technically, like, aura decks could consider it too, because you donating auras really doesn't matter, doesn't change anything. Anyways, though, the first is Group Hug. Yeah, Group Hug, definitely consider it. So KNT, obviously, a 2/8 human soldier for 4 mana, every color but black, essentially. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Each player may put a land card from their hand on the battlefield, and each opponent who didn't draws a card. This is a way to just go, oh, okay, cool. All right, everyone gets a bunch of things. There's different ways that you can take advantage of this, obviously. If it's a true group hug strategy, though, where you're like actually just playing to have other players get more things, like it or hate it, that's the strategy that that happens, and that's out there, and some groups are okay with it, and some aren't. So kind of, if you're playing group hug, maybe ask ahead of time, because if it's like Kingmaker group hug, then some players don't like that. That being said, yeah, if it's a group hug that everyone enjoys, yeah, it could be definitely a good addition to that, because you're like, okay, cool, I get to donate things that actually want to donate, that those players actually want, and I get a benefit off of that by drawing cards. I get to make deals and stuff like that. It's like political control, I guess I could say, is a way to go about it as well. That being said, at the exact opposite end of that, Zedruu the Great-Hearted, yeah, bad gifts type decks as well. A 2/4 Minotaur Monk for 4 mana in Jeskai. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, draw X cards for X number of permanents you own that your opponents control. Pay 3 mana in total. Target opponent gains target permanent you control. Now, this is a repeatable effect, essentially. That being said, Stiltskin obviously makes it a lot easier to just utilize that same effect once in the turn, but you also get an extra card drawn by doing so. So again, instead of having to have the perfect mana for this each time, you probably have the perfect mana for it, but you might just have like 2 extra mana of something else. You're like, oh, okay, cool. I could use Stiltskin to donate something else. I get to draw a card from that, so it's again cheaper, and you get card advantage right then and there, plus the card advantage over time with it. That being said, yeah, I mean, the repeatable effect is still nice to have on this, because Stiltskin, unless you've got untap effects as well, isn't going to just keep on tapping. So yeah, it's a great card to consider again for a Zedruu Bad Gifts deck. Overall, though, a lot of new and exciting cards. Again, if you haven't seen my episode breaking down these cards, make sure you do so. But yeah, there's a lot of really exciting cards so far. Again, Jumbo Cactuar, I am going to just be terrified when I see that thing hit the table. It's going to be like, oh no. And again, outside of the commanders that I already mentioned for this one, like, again, if you just have like a big green stompy deck, you're probably going to be like, cool, that's fun. Throw in the deck. Why not? Yeah, it is a card where it's very impactful. Again, there's other really exciting cards so far, like, Sin, Serious Punishment. That's a really cool commander as one other card. Stiltskin, a very cool different card. So make sure you're staying tuned to this channel, though, for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming out. Again, I have no idea when of these quick takes and spoilers are going to be coming out, because Wizards just randomly has spoiler season start at random times. Just like, oh, yeah, here's like a first look. Here's this, here's that. So make sure you're staying tuned, though, and I will keep you up to date on the latest news. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.